Well, Wolf Puffs, the moment we've been waiting for is here. The results of the powder that was found in Perryville a couple of weeks ago that sent 15 of our staff and some inmates to the hospital. And that was after 4 of our staff had to get NARCAN because of the symptoms they experienced from that mysterious chemical. The department claims it was only a food-like substance, and had the warden of Perryville at the time, Ping, put out an email saying it was just a food-like substance. Well, the director has put out the results, but only to the staff that were affected, and a neat little cover letter to it, and it reads like trash. And we're going to show you how this department is still trying to bamboozle us. And yeah, they did some shady shit here. They tried to cover it up, as we've been saying all this time. The only problem is that now finally we got the results and we can expose them. So pay attention so that you guys know what you're working with in these trenches and what this administration really is about, has always been. We've been fighting this forever. It's not going to get any better. Welcome to the Wolf Den. This is the Wolf Daddy, and stay tuned for this CSI episode of the Wolf Den and see how shady they can really get. Perryville, 2 weeks ago, you guys know the story. We had a tram driver find a white powdery substance in a plastic baggie in the tram. She did the right thing, turned it into one of the unit's main controls. When they tried to process it as evidence to see what it was, it affected 15 people negatively, enough that their blood pressure and everything went. It was horrible. It was chaos, and ICS was initiated. 4 of our staff had to get NARCAN, and you know what NARCAN is. It's only done when professionals deem that something toxic's in your body and they don't know what it is, and they got to snap you out of it. Yes? They end up going to the hospital. In all that fiasco, DOC reports to the media and to our staff that the substance they found was just a food-like substance because it looked like sugar. All right? What they leave out is that the fire safety who had responded at the time, her name is Mary McDowell, she's from Perryville, she had responded, taken her first test, and bammo, it showed 2 things. One line shows that it was like a sugar-like substance. That's what the code. The second one, however, is something called diethylene. Let's read that out. Right? Oh, we got a GD. How do I remember this? Diethylene glycol dimethyl ether. All right? Now, we don't know what that is, but obviously it's something, because sugar doesn't make you want to pass out and get Narcan. So obviously there was something in that chemical. So she was smart enough to take a picture of that, the results, had the hazmat, she's showing what that can do, and it's a toxic chemical. It's not a controlled substance. It's a chemical. Okay, it can do things like I saw that some of the things it does on the sheet has caused problems in fetuses and lab animals and things like that. It's an ether. It's like a liquid and a gas all at the same time. My computer's going to sleep here. So when you put it in sugar, the sugar absorbs it. We don't know what it's used for. And at this point, nothing wrong is happening. This happens in prison. You can get exposed to many things. All they have to do is tell you, you've probably been, you've been exposed. We got to figure out what it is and show some interest for our staff to protect them and their health. This time, I don't know what happened. We have an idea what happened, but they decided, AZCPOA decided to just cover it up and just release that it was a food-like substance. And all of a sudden, the staff went to the hospital. We even got recordings back that the AZCPOA had reported to the hospital it was just a sugar-like substance. So the hospital wasn't too interested anymore in testing these staff. So now there's a problem here, guys, because that chemical, we don't know what it is, but you got to inform staff. That's just the way it is, okay? So that was our mission. Once it got into our hands, we said, we thought to ourselves, we got to find out what this substance is. We talked to the media, we talked to the director, we tried to talk to her, he never answered, he stopped answering, which is weird. He was doing a good job with us for a while, but this seems to have shut him down. Ever since he brought Tara Diaz in, this little mummy from the past there, all of a sudden, all communication is starting to, he's failing in what he said he was going to do. Transparency, communication, all that's coming to an end here real quick like. And we have a theory why it happened this way here, when all they had to do is say, we just got to look into the matter and see what happened here and what that chemical is. But they didn't. They decided to hide it and say, well, we're going to go test it and we'll get the results later. So here's where the story gets interesting. As I start digging around, and of course ADCR is not going to respond to me. The director stopped talking to me. He wouldn't respond to none of our emails or requests. I got a hold of the fire safety that originally responded, and her name is Mary McDowell. Now, some of you from Perryville know her. She went there and did the right thing, tested it. She got a picture of the results. You know, that's the problem. We don't know that diethyl. It's an ether, and it's got an MSDS sheet with it, so it's not good. It's a toxic chemical. We got to find out what it is. But somehow, DOC is shutting her down too, and I'll tell you why. I ended up calling her, and she was very graceful on the phone. She told me the whole thing, the whole story. She was not happy. She's concerned for her staff, as well she should be, right? She's very concerned for her staff. So she decided to tell me everything that happened that day, and it's not a pretty story, and we knew what it was, right? So once the media started talking to me, and they needed evidence, they needed the results of the, the test. We said a couple weeks coming probably, and they wanted to know who was involved, and we mentioned Mary. All of a sudden, they try to get a hold of Mary, and she disappears. It comes to my attention from my people up at Central Office, because I got friends up there, the director. This guy. These people never learn their lesson, you know. We've been around. Some of us are dinosaurs. We've been around a long time. We got loyalties everywhere. So they let us know that Mary was schooled by Tara Diaz, where she was told to keep her mouth shut, and that she wasn't allowed to talk to me or the media. But I got to tell you, that's a failure. Her job, and you'll see it in her own words, because she was worried about, in her own words, her job is full transparency. You got to protect your staff. That chemical is dangerous. I looked it up on the internet. It's got an MSDS sheet. It's dangerous. It's toxic. You got to let the staff know what was in there and find out if that's what it was that indeed made them pass out. Because I've never known anyone to be narcaned over inhaling sugar. I don't know about you. This may be a first. But after that, she wouldn't talk to us anymore. And I'm disappointed, because that makes her part of the problem. Okay? She can't be high. She is the fire safety. Her job is to explain in her own words what happened that day. Well, lucky for me, I recorded the whole incident, and I'm going to let you listen to it. And I've edited some parts out, not to whitewash it or anything. It's just some parts of just personal conversations you don't need to know. They're not relevant. But in the crux, pay attention. Pay attention to what's being said, because it becomes relevant with the results that I'm going to show you guys in a minute. Okay? So pay attention.
Good afternoon, OSC McDowell. May I help you?
Hi, Mary McDowell. This is ex-Lieutenant Garcia from, I work now for AZCPOA. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing really good. How are you today?
Good, dear. So, anyway, I've been speaking to employees, and I know how you were involved in that. I want to thank you so much for looking out after our staff.
Oh, absolutely.
And when they told me that there was, I did 20 years there, Mary. So when they told me the results of what happened that day, I said, what are you talking about? That it was some kind of food substance. That story, even the news were like, that's not fucking possible. What in the name of sweet Jesus are you guys talking about? So I became concerned, and it led me here to you. So,
I agree. And I am trying to be 100% transparent.
Yeah.
Right now, I have an unknown substance. I still do not have the results back from the state lab.
Yeah. So
perfect. So if you look at the screenshot of the testing equipment that was done, the very top one does say
sugar. It looks like
correct. But the bottom one is not that.
Yes, diethylene glycol dimethyl.
That is correct.
God.
So when you pull the SDSs on the items, again, I still don't have a confirmation on anything that's going on. I know some of the staff that I've spoken with are concerned that it's going to be swept under the rug, but I can tell you right now, with as many outside responding agencies that were involved, I am going to be a topic of conversation at conferences for many years from now, just due to the mass casualty, the location, and everything else. And I've got city agencies that had their own staff members exposed to an unknown substance.
So here's Mary. So here's the thing that I have to look at. This is where we come in and think, okay, well, how do we do damage control? The staff, you did the right thing. When you find that, the protocol for us, for DOC, even from your angle, we say, okay, we're under ICS, okay? Here's what we normally do. We've got an unknown substance that the sheets show it's toxic, all right? The behavior of our staff, these are good staff. These are not actors. We're not talking about Tom Hardy here.
I agree,
okay,
100%.
Right, so in my life, and I'm 60 years old, I've never seen sugar make 15 people or so have that kind of reaction. So obviously, that diethylene glycol, that was in, obviously something's going on. We don't have to call it anything. All we're saying is the machines don't lie. That's toxic. Until we find out what exactly we're dealing with here, there's some protocols that have to be met, and you're out of the loop. You did your job. But our job as an ICS and complex, their job was supposed to say, lock down the complex, isolate that area, get a hazmat team in here. We don't know what we're doing.
We did that.
Yeah.
I did have ICS. I did have the yard lockdown. It was isolated in the control room.
Yeah.
It was taken care of. The inmates were completely separated and away from that. I had 49 responding units to my facility.
That's good. Here's the disconnect with Tara Diaz and up above. I believe that the director doesn't know. I'm gonna repeat that to you, and you're gonna say, what? I know the director well. He came here from a different state, and I was one of the ones that literally told him, dude, you can't come here. You're gonna be like a fish out of water. I put him on the news and said, this is a bombed out Berlin you're walking into. Okay, you just can't come in here and take over. But he came in and tried his best, and by the time he figured out that it was a bombed out Berlin, he did a few things. He hired back like Tara Diaz. He put certain people in place. These are the people that are going to run his business for him. My hunch, knowing what I know, there is no way that a director knowing this would have just let this go and report on the news. It was nothing. It was just a unknown food substance. No way. No way, Jose. This comes from Tara Diaz and the other ones who are doing damage control.
That is correct. And like I said, right now they're only giving partial information. They are only giving the top chemical composition. Now, I have issues with now, and I'm just speaking my opinion freely, my thoughts here.
Yeah.
If this is, and this is after speaking with other professionals in the industry, industrial hygienists and things like that, both for the state through ADOSH and through Kerry Environmental.
Yeah.
Okay. If this is something that is utilized in pill manufacturing as a cutting agent and somebody was trying to get it into the facility, I have full strength shit here that I need to be worried about.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have additional exposure potential for what? The other thing is our close proximity to the southern border. We don't know what some of the shit is coming across from China. I apologize for my mouth. My staff are being treated and poo-pooed away.
Yeah, they were. So let me tell you what they should have done on top of everything that you did correctly. This came from Tara Diaz. What she did is she's going to say what she should have done is tell the director, we have an unknown here. And you know how you treat an unknown director? You treat it as if it was a known in the meantime. It's like when the COVID broke out and we told the director, which was Shin at the time, we have COVID. You need to put masks on all your staff. And he goes, well, it hasn't hit the prisons yet. And we go, dude, it's an unknown. We don't know if COVID is in the prison. You got to do a preventive measures. And he did not. He went on the news and said, well, the prison right now is one of the safest places. 2 weeks later, we had over 30 infected and inmates were dying and we lost a warden. This is what we're trying to prevent. So what DOC should have done, not you. You did Mary, I know my craft. I got attorneys that work with me. You're done. You did what you were supposed to do. Now what DOC did is trying to bury it. They should have told the staff, you guys were exposed to something called diethylene glycol, we think, okay? This thing, we don't know what it is. We're going to send you guys to the hospital to get tested, period. We're gonna have them monitor you. We can't have you return to work yet. That's just the nature of this beast. We don't know what we're dealing with. And if you got, we don't know if any, what if a female was pregnant? This is a big, so my problem now is that nothing was covered up from our side. But this is not the way you do it. You cannot defend the department by not letting them know that there was an unknown. You don't go on the news and say, well, it was kind of a food substance. And even the warden Ping put out there, yeah, it was just a food substance.
I and myself and another OSC through the Fire and Life Safety Office were pushing extremely hard to have an industrial hygienist from either ADOSH come out or from a third-party vendor to come in and make sure that the location was safe to enter and what exactly we could potentially be dealing with. Now, during the decontamination phase, it was determined that we were going to go off of the STSs from the 2 pulled known substances.
Right.
That I was able to gather, and take care of. And if you look at the paperwork that you have, one is a powder and one is actually a liquid. Now, what was found was a powder. So that liquid had been introduced
of course, dear.
To that package.
Yeah. We're prison workers. We know what the hell. We already, listen, from day one when we heard what happened, we knew what went down. Okay, we're not stupid. 15 people going down, you got to do Narcan for 1.
I did Narcan for 4.
Oh, God, we only heard 1. Oh, God, Oh, Lord.
I am 100% truthful and transparent.
I know, honey.
I've got nothing to hide, and I commit occupational suicide on a daily basis. I did not grow up in DOC. I am an outsider, and I battle daily.
I know. Well... Welcome to our world.
This sample is to the state lab and chain of custody. And issues with that, and the pushback that we were getting because the recommendation was an industrial hygienist, and when it was posed and presented, it was pretty much poo-pooed away, and the push. And I flat said I wasn't going in to do any cleaning per SDSs unless I got personal indemnification from Tara DX.
You were exposed possibly to something called diethylene glycol. We don't know what the fuck that is. We don't know till we get the permanent results what it is. But there's an obvious reason why you guys all had a reaction. And we don't know at this point how deadly or what the repercussions are. But industrials have to be done. You guys have to be sent to the hospitals, to test. And we have to wait to see what's going on. But at least you got to inform staff. It's really against the law. You cannot, someone that's been exposed to something toxic, you can't hide it from them. And what they did here is they hid it from staff. They're hiding it still.
The thing is I did have individuals transported to the hospital. And they were tested and treated, but I believe that they were only tested for the fentanyl.
Of course, we know.
Some of the things that I've been hearing from very upset staff because they're being clowned right now by coworkers. Oh, it was nothing but sugar. It was nothing but sugar, which I call bullshit. Because individuals that have extremely strong constitutions are extremely honorable individuals. Would not feed into any kind of a psychological frenzy. Okay, all of the staff members that I have spoken to over the last 2 days since I have returned to work, I have strongly suggested that they follow up with the primary care physicians and have blood work done and taken care of to make sure that they don't have something else lingering.
Okay, so here we are, 2 weeks later after being in limbo, worrying about what our staff inhaled. The director decides to send a letter concluding his investigation, the test. He actually did 2 tests. He sent it to two different labs and decided to send a letter of closure to only the 15 staff and included the results. Now, let me tell you, just for future reference, because I know they're going to watch this. Hey guys, the next time you try to do shady shit and hide things, don't send the actual results out where we can see it and investigate it. The results had what they tested for and an actual signature of the person that tested it, which means that we can now call them and inquire on the shady shit you guys did. And that's what they did. So anyway, before we do anything, here's the cover letter. Give it a gander, and then I'll read a little part of it so you guys can understand what we're talking about. So listen carefully. Here's what he says. As the investigation into your August 15, 2023 incident at Perryville draws to a close, I am following up with you to ensure you personally receive the independent lab test results conducted on the substance in question. Okay? The lab results are attached to this letter. Should have never done that. Although your occupational health team may have previously informed you, we have confirmed that the substance found was non-toxic, non-narcotic, and was not a dangerous drug. Okay? This was conducted by 2 labs and they confirmed it. Please know that your safety and wellness is important to me, as is communication. Although he doesn't speak to anyone, and he's been saying it's just a food-like substance. If you have any ongoing questions, blah, 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 yada, yada, send it to your leadership team, to Warden Ping, who lied about it as well. And you can also access staff ombudsman office, which we have, and, you know, they don't do anything. All they do is boomerang it back to them where they give us a response. It's all a scam, all right? And that's it. So anyway, here's the problem with that. Nowhere in the letter does it say, let's address the elephant in the room. It wasn't a drug, which we already know. That's a problem. We never said there was a drug in that substance. Mary had tested it. It showed that there was sugar-like substance, and this thing called diethylene, right, which is an ether, and it's toxic. No one said anything about drugs, okay? So why are you doing a drug test on that? Shouldn't you do a chemical test? But we'll get to that in a second. But nowhere in the letter then does he say we're going to address this elephant in the room and find out exactly what it is that made you guys pass out. If it wasn't this, then what was it? Are you all 15 allergic to, you know, sweet and low? Could be. And I've seen crazier things happen, all right? That's not what it was. So we reviewed the results, and I'm going to show them to you here and then give you a breakdown of what we're talking about. So you guys looked at it. Listen, for future reference, guys, director, Tara Diaz, when you're going to do shady shit, all right, make sure you don't put it in the hands of people that know what they're doing. I was in this department a long time. Eight of those years was SSU, and that's not really the biggest thing in the world, but I worked with GIT'em at the time because of the gangs that were going on in SMU2, and we did more work than most SMU2s do and most SSUs. But so we're familiar with drug tests and chemical tests and all that. So from the very beginning, we never said it was a drug. We wanted to know about that diethylene. It's a chemical. So what they should have done is do a test on the substance to see what the diethylene did. But they didn't. They did the shadiest thing you could possibly do. And I'm thinking it came from Tara and from the other goombas down there. They're advising this doesn't know anything director. It came out of a, you know, this little prison where there's more people in my house than that prison house. He doesn't know anything. So they bamboozled him, possibly. Hopefully that's the way it, but they try to bamboozle us. So what you just saw there was not a chemical test. It was just a controlled substance test. All right? So what does that mean? That means that they specifically say just test to see if there's drugs in there, nothing else. Because when you call these places, they specifically have different tests. They have chemical tests, toxicity tests, they have all these things. In fact, there's a menu. If you call it yourself on that number, you'll see that they run it down before you even talk to the chemists that are going to answer your phone, you know. So that's what I did, all right? So I already knew what it was, but I like to confirm things. You know how I do it. So I decided to call the people that actually tested these products and get it from them. So I recorded the conversations with them, just like I did with the fire safety, so you can hear for yourself what this department did. That they in fact hide it. They hid, hide it. They hid, I'm from Brooklyn, sometimes we say things like that. I also say wolf instead of wolf. So they hid the chemical, all right? They knew what it was. They conferred and they said, listen, these staff are never going to know. They're expendable. That's what you guys all are. It's time you guys start realizing, I've been saying it for years, they think you're spackle and that you're dumb enough to fall for it. So don't tell them anything about that diethylene. We're not interested. We know it was in there because the initial test showing it. We can't verify that. Okay, we don't want to verify that, and I'll tell you in a minute why you don't want to verify that. But just hide it. You hide it. You just do a standard drug test for a substance that we know didn't have drugs, and they knew it, but instead they decided to just bamboozle everyone, shove staff aside, they have no dignity, no care whatsoever what happens to our staff. You know, I'm trying to remain my composure, but these dirtbags are just horrible. They should all be terminated. I mean, what are you going to do, man? You know? Let me get myself centered here again. They knew what they were doing. They don't want our staff to know that they were exposed to a toxic chemical. And I'll tell you why. It's very easy, okay? We're short staff. We're running on empty right now, okay? Things are happening that shouldn't be happening. You got staff bringing in drugs, bringing in drugs, visitors. We don't have enough people. This is what it is. They're trying to cover up the fact that was found in a tram, probably came in with a staff member, probably is exactly what we thought it was. It probably used to be to cut drugs or whatever they're going to do with it. And they don't want to embarrass themselves and telling the public, hey, we have no stringent methods. These things are coming in. It's going to affect your family members of their inmates, family members of their staff. And we can't have that mar our reputation. So you know what? The hell with staff. They take the brunt of it. We lie to them. And that way we cover our asses. Okay? So I want you to listen to these conversations. They're real short, but it's from both labs. Okay? Okay, so today's 9/5/2023 at 8:44. I'm going to go ahead and call the Central Regional Crime Laboratory and get their comments on this test that DOC put out there. And we'll take it from there.
Crime Lab, this is Kelly.
Hi, ma'am. My name's Carlos Garcia, and I work for AZCPOA. We're a union for the Department of Corrections. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, good. We just have a general question on reading your examination report that came from over there. Our members were involved in an incident in Perryville, in prison, involving, it could have been drugs and the substance, we don't know. So they sent ADCRR sent it to your lab. It came back to us, and we've got the result. We just want to make something clear for us. It says that there were no narcotic or dangerous drugs detected. So the examination requested was controlled substances. So for us, just so we'll know, Kelly, to make it clear for our staff so they don't get concerned about anything, this test will tell you about any kind of drug that was in the test, correct?
So we don't technically have tests for specific drugs. We do like a general screening.
Yeah.
So when you get a report back that says no narcotic or dangerous drugs detected, it just means that we didn't see anything that is reportable as like a narcotic or dangerous drug.
Okay, I get it.
So there could have been, like caffeine or something or some other non-controlled thing in there, but there was nothing controlled to be reported.
Okay. How about, so let's say there was a chemical, because there was at first a report that they might have had diethylene glycol dimethyl ether, some chemical. They had it up on their MSDS. But, I don't know if that was a concern or not, but when they did the test, would that show up in this kind of test if it was in there?
Possibly, may or may not, but if it does, we're not going to make any note of it because that's not a controlled substance.
Okay. That's fair enough. All right, Kelly, because we get these sometimes, we get these examination reports. They look simple to you guys, but to us,
right.
We're like, oh, what are we looking at? Is it
right?
Okay. So it wouldn't show up. It would show up some drugs. Okay, controlled substances. That's why they request it. If we wanted to check for a chemical, can we do tests for that or no?
We don't know.
Okay.
Possibly the Department of Health, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if they have, requirements on what kind of a case it is before they take it. I don't know what their rules are, but that's a possibility.
Okay. All right. Well, ma'am, you've been helpful. At least we know now how to interpret this. That's all I have. Today's September the 1st. It's about 8:36 in the morning. I'm going to be calling the Arizona Department of Health Services. They have a state lab to talk about some results. You'll figure out here in a second what we're doing. Let me call them.
Chemistry, this is Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. My name is Carlos Garcia. How are you, ma'am?
good. How about you?
Oh, good. Thank you. I just have a general question. I'm an executive director for one of our organizations that work in prison, and we just have a question just regarding on how to read some of these results that came back to us that the state sent out. It was a white powder, and in it I think it says that it was a drug screen when they send it out to you guys. So the general question would be, when they test for these substances, is it just drugs? Or if there is another chemical that's not a controlled substance, would it still show up and would they report it? The reason I'm asking is because there was a white powder that was found in one of our prisons and 15 staff were affected. So the state sent it out to the labs, 2 labs. One was yours to be tested, and it came back negative for drugs because it was a drug screen. But there was the initial testing that we did in the units. It showed up something diethylene glycol dimethyl ether, something like that. We just want to know, when you guys do your drug, when they do the drug screen, would it show up if it had this other element that's not a drug?
So no, I'm pretty sure I sent you the analyte list.
Yeah, they did.
So
they did.
That's all that we're testing for. So
okay.
If it's not on that analyte list, then we wouldn't be detecting it.
Okay, that was just our concern of our members, because they were like, how about that substance that first came up? You know, it was a diethylene glycol ether, because it had an effect on them that they felt like they were going to pass out, and we knew it wasn't drugs because the people tested it there. We had people that know what they're doing. They tested and said there's no drugs in it, but I think the director wanted to be safe and make sure there was no drugs in it, and there wasn't. We saw on the drug screen. We were just trying to clear that up, that if there was something else in there, if they didn't put it down, you wouldn't test for it then.
Yeah, because for unknown substances or like the white powders, we only do this one poison toxin screen.
Yeah.
And it's not just drugs, there's other poisons and toxins in there. So yeah, that's the only screening that we do on unknown substances. Okay, because we know it was kind of a sugar, because it even showed up on our testing. You know, they have that machine that the fire safety uses, and it shows sugar, which it looked like what it was, that powder. And then it had diethylene glycol. So they don't test for the diethylene glycol. That's what we're just trying to establish so that we can rule that out. Yeah, that's not something that we're testing for.
Okay. Well, Miss Cheryl, you've been a great help. It's just when we get these results, they're scientific, and most of us are not.
Yeah.
Most of us are not. I don't want to go there. I was going to say, well, most of us got a GED, but that's not cool. Anyway. All right. Well, thank you. You've been a great help.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Strike one. So they do not test. The department did not ask for the diethylene glycol ether. You heard it yourself. That's not what they tested for. We knew, this director should have never put this out, never put out the results if they're going to be sneaky like this. So we knew from the get-go it was not a drug substance in there. It was sugar and this chemical that does cause fainting. It can cause kidney problems, and results that they've done in labs with animals can cause birth problems when they're pregnant. This is bad. The department can't be hiding these things, and they did. They hid it. They were sneaky about it. They were sneaky. They sent it exactly to the lab and put down only drugs. They left that out, and they knew what they were doing because they get screened by these people when they do these tests. So that's one down. We'll call the other one on Tuesday for the second one. Put this all together, Wolf Pups, and what do you have? You have a cover-up. They don't want to, there was no reason to cover this up. These things happen, and all you have to do is follow the proper procedures and protect our staff. But our staff are completely expendable right now. And the whole purpose of doing this video was because we're going to see, we're right now looking at legal action against them. They absolutely covered this up and hid it in the worst way possible. They tried to disguise it that it was a food-like substance. They do the wrong test on it. They just do a drug test knowing that chemical won't show up. As you heard the lab technicians talk about it, right? It's not going to show up. Unless they specifically say, look for that. Sometimes even that, even that might be iffy, but at least they looked into it. But they didn't do it this time because ADCR just did a regular substance, a controlled substance test that we didn't need to done. They spent money, our money, on that trash just to cover their tracks and put something out there to our staff. And still, they're not addressing the elephant in the room as we speak. So if it was sugar, and that's all it was, and there was no drugs, what made 15 people get sent to the hospital and 4 get Narcan? And that's what we're asking them at this point. You're busted. Cat's out of the bag. You guys have been done. All right? This director, we thought we could work with him. It's not going to happen. He needs to go back to where he came from. Tara Diaz, retire. Nobody wanted to hear in the first place, and now you're back. And now you are entrenched in there and doing all this shady shit. It's not. It won't last, guys. I've told you once and I'll tell you before, our staff are like little GoPros. They record everything. And if this is the method that we now have to do, this is what we're going to do. I don't even care if this makes it to the news anymore. I'm not interested. All I'm interested is in legal action from this point on. I wanted to show our members that they've been bamboozled and that we're not going to let it go. Okay? They may think they're spackle and do this, but we're always going to stop them. We're always going to intercept them. And be advised, for those of you still working here in these trenches, this is your future. This guy coming here from another state wanting to call them residents and shit. Already he's doing what the past directors have do. I saw it. I hear it. I stay silent about it. We bury it. They shove policy down your mouth, tell you can't talk. They did it with the fire safety. They'll do it with you too. They're doing it now as we speak. They have no shame, and this will continue unless you guys snap out of it and pay attention to what's going on. So for the staff that were involved in this incident, yes, you were involved to that diethylene, that glycol, and they didn't test for it. They're going to cover it up. They're going to hope that whatever that product have expires and that they can't be used anymore. So we're working on it to see what we're going to do. But in the meantime, we're going to reach out. We're going to do some legal, some remedies here because we're not going to take that. This department is dangerous now. More dangerous than ever. It's weird. We thought it was going to be better. It's only going to get more dangerous. In the meantime, stay safe. No one's got your backs. Watch your own backs. I love you. You love me back. Let me know. Till next time.